Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Mariano Lau fourth webinar series with the topic How to Get Away with Plagiarism. I am your moderator this afternoon, John Saint Palama from the Office of Silliman Online University Learning. To welcome everyone this afternoon's webinar, may I call on our project leader and director of Silliman Online University Learning, no other than Dr. Dave E. Marshall. Sir?
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, world. Welcome to another series of academic sharing, knowledge sharing in relation to online distance learning. I would like to thank all the participants, 80 and counting, inside the Zoom meeting room. I would like to thank our special friends in the Asian University Digital Resource Network. I saw Dr. Telma here. Thank you. I saw also Sir Herbert of USL, University of St. Louis to Gigarao. Thank you for joining us and the rest of our um, member partners of the AUDRN. Thank you for joining us. I would like to thanks also our students who are here this afternoon inside the room, especially our year students of Seliman University. I think many of our participants are coming from the empowerment technologies classes as well as educational technology classes. Thank you for joining us. And to all our Facebook viewers, thank you also for tuning in. In a little later, we will be hearing another amazing topic that will assist every one of us in this new normal of learning. So, greeting from Seliman University, the campus by the sea. Mabuhay from the Mariano and Lina Lau Activity Center. The Seliman University and Dr. Lau Free Computer Education was established to provide free computer education to Seliman and the community. This program aims to offer need-based computer skills training for Silliman employees, Silliman students, and retirees from the community. The first batch was launched in January 2019, and it was conducted every weekend with 25 participants per group. The training was conducted every Saturday for 3 months. Due to COVID-19, the face-to-face training is temporarily discontinued. But COVID-19 did not stop us to continue our advocacy of providing free knowledge transfer and training. Last July to September, we organized free webinars on the topic emphasizing online distance teaching. The webinars provided skills training, knowledge sharing among teachers and educators, that which the topic relevant in the time of the pandemic. In this quarter, our webinar session, highlight on strategies, techniques, and tips for online learners to our dear students. It is open to all and it is delivered, of course, via Zoom, and now we are live on Facebook. Today, we invited another expert to give us tips and strategies in relation to students' online distance learning on the topic plagiarism. We at the Dr. Mariano and Lina Lau and the Dr. Mariano Lau Innovation, Creation, and Invention Laboratory are excited to learn with you. We are with you in prayer that this global crisis will end the soonest. Thank you for joining us and mabuhay tayong lahat.
Good morning, Dr. Dave Marshall, the staff, and everybody. Welcome. I'm always happy to meet with all of you. Hopefully, we will meet each other again face to face next year. The online distance learning will be a great adventure for all of us through technology. I wish all of you will take advantage of this opportunity with our great teachers and be successful. Thank you and have a nice day. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall, and of course, our very own Dr. Mariano Lau for that message. So, this afternoon, we have here on screen our webinar rules. Of course, first here is please mute your microphone or audio so that we can hear the words of experiences to our um, facilitator. And of course, please type in your complete name so that we can easily identify you. And of course, we also have here, please turn off your video if not necessary to turn on. Okay, and if you have questions and regarding the topic, you can actually type your question in the chat box or raise your hand virtually in Zoom. And of course, for those who are watching via Facebook, you may actually type your question in the comment section in Facebook. And of course, we also have um, this session is a video recorded session, and then recordings will be available at the Dr. Mariano Lau Innovation, Creation, and Invention Laboratory website. Allow me to introduce our speaker this afternoon. Our speaker this afternoon has 27 years of experience that spans various fields such as education, industrial relations, public administration, development work, and disaster risk reduction and management. Because of this vast experience, she has been called on to speak at various capacities and different subject matters countless times. Despite all these, education remains to be her passion and consists both a majority and a core of her work. While finishing her undergraduate degree in area studies, Asia in the University of the Philippines, Manila, she took on various roles in government and in the development sector, particularly working in the House of Representatives and non-government organizations on labor and women's rights. In 2005, she began to work as technical assistant in the Planning and Development Office of Miriam College, the institution she would work up to this day and where she would develop her career in education. While working in the Planning and Development Office, she was also able to obtain his Master of Industrial Relation from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, in 2009. She has taken on various roles in Miriam College as a volunteer teacher in adult education, an online facilitator, and the course director of open distance learning. As of current, she remains to be part of time senior lecturer, project management, and training consultant, and a faculty research associate for the Center of Strategic Research of the institution. In 2010, she trained under the World Bank Institute on the trainer's training for online facilitation. She has, since then, been training teachers across the country on teaching online facilitation. It is for this vast experience that it's in 2019 she was onboarded by Thames International as the Associate Dean and now serves as the Dean of the college. Today, Sheila continues to make strides in education sector, working to not only deliver quality education for the students and teachers under her care in Thames International and in Miriam College, but also To the many teachers around the world, and of course across the country, all levels, all learning modalities to help them overcome the transition towards teaching in the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our speaker this afternoon, Sheila Lo Dingcong. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you all see me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Maayong hapon sa tanan. I'm so glad that I was invited by Dr. Marshall to one of your Mariano La webinar series. And, I'm very, well, I'd like to consider that I'm close with Silliman University, beginning with the establishment of the AUDRN, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Dave. I've gone to Silliman several times over the past 10 years. I've met with Dr. Ben before, the former president, even the current president, now Dr. Betty, and a lot of the teachers and staff in Silliman. So, madamo gid nga salamat for inviting me. Okay, so I'd like to share my screen so that I can start this interesting lecture this afternoon. Okay, so I hope you can now see my slides. Okay, sige. Uh, there you go. So, how to get away with plagiarism? Okay, so I was asked by Dr. Dave when he invited me what topic I'd be interested most in sharing to you. And the past semester, this pandemic semester where everybody goes online, um, I get to experience several, not just one or two, but several plagiarism cases as a teacher. And I have been encountering a lot of plagiarism cases over the years as I started teaching. So I said maybe it would be helpful, as we go online. The tendency to commit plagiarism is really there, is very high. So maybe it would be very good if I talk about this and discuss about this. Okay, so moving on. Welcome to P101. So I, I'm very interested to create courses or subjects. So I call this P101, Plagiarism 101. So what will I share with you today? The what, why, and how of plagiarism. And then I will be introducing a shift in mindset maybe when I talk about everything is a remix, in the context of the world today, and how knowledge is being consumed by people and created. Everything may be a remix. Okay, let's see later on. And then, of course, I will also talk about the democratization of knowledge. I've been talking about this since I started online teaching in after the World Bank training in 2010. So pretty much like 10 years on online. And then I'd like to emphasize and end on a note of creating a strong ethical culture in the academy. Okay, so this is going to be for like 2 hours, as I was given the time to discuss this, or even less, maybe to give more time for question and answer later. Okay, so let's start with, of course, from the students. If you just allow your teachers to keep on talking and lecturing, they will dominate the class or dominate any learning session. So it's better that you should start. Okay. So I have here a question: what is plagiarism? And I prepared a Mentimeter slide for everybody. So here's the link, here's the voting code. And if you have a QR scanner, you can just scan the code for you to answer what is plagiarism for you. Okay. I'll give you depends on how fast or quick you can answer. Let's see, I will shift my screen so that I will see the response. So please take a picture of maybe the screen, get the voting code, the link, or scan the QR code. And then I will check here. Here is my Menti board. Okay. I will be waiting for your responses. Please, what is plagiarism to you? Just one word, keyword, maximum of 3 responses. Okay, I'll just refresh and see if what your thoughts are on plagiarism. Stealing, wow, talaga big word, huh? Heavy gut, stealing. So it means that it's a crime, you know? It's a, it's going to be a criminal case. Copying, cheating. Okay, so cheating and plagiarism, okay, can be connected. Theft, wow. No reference, uncredited. Okay. Piracy, okay. Oh, we're expert on piracy, right? We're like China. Sorry, I hope there are no Chinese here, but we all know that uh, China is very good in copying. Um, Unoriginality or unoriginal work. Okay, more answers, please. Come on, let's get more insights. Inevitable. I see inevitable here. Okay, hindi maiiwasan. You cannot avoid it. It's inevitable. Yeah. So we expect that everybody plagiarizes. Okay. Copyright infringement. Okay. Wrong spelling. Accidental. Okay. So there can be accidental plagiarism. Ay, nakopya ko. Ganon. Accidental, unintentional. Okay. Unethical. Okay. So you talk about ethics here, no? So values. So it's not just a simple matter. Stealing is still the biggest word, so it means most number of responses. Copying is also this, I think, the second biggest. Theft is also the second, a big word here. Okay, copying of ideas, similar to copying. Okay, any more? Rip off. Rip off. Wow. Uh, Plagiarism is rip off. Okay. These are student responses, right? I hope, I don't know if the teachers are also responding. Irresistible. Wow. Simply irresistible. It's so irresistible to copy and just paste. Stealing ideas. Okay. What else? I like the rip off word. Okay. Cheating or stealing now is, yeah, it has been the biggest word. Bad. Okay, there's a small word there. Bad. Plagiarism is bad. Okay. They told us, I know, that plagiarism is bad. Okay. So why do you want to listen to me if I will talk about getting away with plagiarism? Okay, robbed. Okay. No reference. Okay. Unreferenced citation, sometimes unintended. Okay. Sometimes unintended. Okay. Okay. Stealing ideas. Okay. So how do we protect our ideas? No? If it can be stolen, how do we protect our ideas? We don't share them, because if we share them, maybe somebody will hear about them and they can steal it. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's enough time for everybody to put in their thoughts on um, plagiarism. Okay. Next is, why do we plagiarize? Okay, I didn't ask anymore if we plagiarized in our lives while we were students or as students right now, in the past, or even currently. I don't want to ask anymore if we have plagiarized or not. Why do we plagiarize? My assumption is everybody plagiarized. All of us plagiarized. Let's not be shy about it. Same code, I will just have to shift. Right, I will just have to shift pala. Um, okay. And how do I do that? See, I'm not good at this. Okay, there. I have to shift and present. Okay, so now write your answers. Why do we plagiarize? If those were the things that you have in mind about plagiarism, like it's bad, it's stealing, it's um, unethical, it's theft, and all that. Why do we plagiarize? We don't see the responses. I don't see who writes. Just be honest about finish things quickly. Sometimes last resort. Okay, last resort. Usually pressured because of the deadline. Okay, so we see time management skills here. Questions and theme are redundant, and answers are already available. Okay, so we plagiarize because of that. People usually plagiarize because copy paste is easy. Okay, on a third person point of view, people usually plagiarize because copy paste is easy. That's true. I know. Yeah, copy paste is easy. Have something urgent to pass and had no time or motivation to do it. No motivation. Walang kagana-gana. It's convenient, okay, to copy and paste, okay? Too lazy to think. Oh, very good answer. I like this. You're very honest, whoever you are. Too lazy to think. Yes. For me, I think that's the usual. It's the east. That's the main reason, because we're pressed of time, maybe. So it's going to take us a while to think. So because we're too lazy to think. Uh, I think sometimes really hard to like use our brains. Fear of failing. Okay. We fear the outcome of not plagiarizing. So we plagiarize in order to have a better outcome. Oh, that's a very nice, that's a very significant response, in why students plagiarize. You fear failing, which is a negative, negative outcome. So to get a positive outcome, you plagiarize. Okay, so if you plagiarize, you don't get a negative outcome. Okay, siguro nga if you don't get caught, stressed. Okay, so if you're stressed, we just plagiarize. It's easy. We lack compelling ideas to share. Okay. Again, I think that's also laziness to think because we don't have ideas to share. We need answers, but we don't know how. Okay. So instead of asking questions, we just copy. Due to procrastination, we plagiarize to finish things quickly. Okay. Again, time. Ignorance. Ignorance. Okay. So we do not know. Okay. We're ignorant, we plagiarize. So pretty much talaga we're saying that we don't have anything, any ideas in our mind. Plagiarized works are more creative and innovative. This is a nice way of putting plagiarized work. More creative and innovative. How can it be creative and innovative if you just copied it? Or maybe that's one type of plagiarism. Later, I will discuss the common types of plagiarism, which maybe can fall under creative and innovative. Okay, procrastination equals to plagiarism. Okay, tama, yan. But for my own experience, I have to wait for the time that is near the deadline for my brain to function. My my brain functions when it is pressured. So when it's not pressured, when the deadline is still far away, it seems it doesn't work. Yeah. Okay, so procrastination leads to plagiarism. Lack of proper training and awareness of academic rules and guidelines. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's true. Not only maybe of academic rules and guidelines, but actually how to write a proper academic paper. How to avoid falling into the pit of plagiarism. Okay, so we don't have responses anymore. Okay, but these are very good responses, and I appreciate the honesty, and candidness of our Siliman students. Yeah, that easy route. Yeah, very good. Okay, so let me go back to uh, my other screen. Okay, so there we go. Share screen again. Sorry, I have to go back and forth. Okay, so those are our reasons why we plagiarize. And yeah, I understand all of those. I think I've gone through the same reasons. Sometimes pag it's really pretty late, you just mush it all up. But uh, yeah, it's not just it doesn't just look good or sound good when you plagiarize in that sense. Um, but I just like to share why plagiarism seems to be a interesting topic for me. I don't know why, but since I started online teaching or online facilitation, I developed this knack for detecting plagiarized work. I don't um I'm an online teacher who loves to interact in discussion forums with my students. So I make sure that I get to know how they write and how they express themselves. When they do that in the beginning, after a while, I get to know their tone. I get to know how they talk. I get to know how they talk in quotations. I get to know their style of writing. Yeah. So when I ask for assignments or for written work, anything that doesn't sound like them always raises a flag to me, a red flag that why is, for example, Susan sounding a little bit off on this paper. Yeah. And since it's online, guys, it's so easy for teachers to check if your work is plagiarized or not, because the internet is just there to, giving all the information for us. But, sadly, I also have encountered teachers who do not have any idea how to check a plagiarized paper or to check for plagiarism. Like how can we do this? They said, Um, so I think that's very good for us to train, continuously train, and both teachers and students on plagiarism. Okay, so I always catch my students when they plagiarize, but I'm very lenient. I talk to them and just tell them, inform them that, oops, your paper has a lot of cut and pastes or copy and paste. Can you please redo your paper? And majority of my students would always admit that, oh, miss, sorry, I'll redo it again. Yeah, so that's fine with me. We all deserve second chances, even third chances sometimes. It's just the behavior that I'm really particular about. If you've committed a mistake and you admit to it, it's all right. You can do it again. But if you defend something that you did wrong, something you own something that's not yours, that is not something that I would like. That's I would get mad at it. Um, because despite being so open and being flexible, I'm very open to copy, paste, borrow, steal, whatever. But I also uphold academic or intellectual honesty. Yeah. For me, honesty is always the best policy in everything. In everything. So in the context of the school, of an academic institution, we also have to maintain intellectual honesty. That's something that we have to treasure as teachers and as students, as learners. While in school, we should always bear that in mind because we will bring that later on into our lives or outside the school. Okay. So sige, moving on. Um, Here is a definition of plagiarism by Bowdoin Academic Honor Code. This is an American university. So plagiarism, it says, involves the intentional, or negligent use by paraphrase or direct quotation. So even a lot of my students say, Miss, I paraphrased it. And later I'll show you an example of how badly a paraphrased um, written work is. Paraphrase or direct quotation of the published or unpublished, so even unpublished work of another person without full and clear acknowledgement in all such scholarly work as essays, examinations, oral written reports, homework, assignments, laboratory reports, computer programs, music scores, even music scores, okay, choreography, movements, dance steps, graphic depictions, visual representations. So anything that you get or borrow from somebody else, you should cite. And if you don't do that, you will fall to the case of plagiarism. Yeah, that's according to the the definition. Pretty much other definitions from Wikipedia and from other sources would basically tell us the same um, definition of plagiarism. And I'm sure we all know what plagiarism is all about. Yeah. Your keywords earlier were actually different. They were interpretations of your own experience or reason. Okay, that's why it varies there. Um, in um, in most laws, plagiarism can fall as a criminal act, but I'm not so sure if there is somebody who went to jail, who was sent to jail because of plagiarism. Okay, maybe in copyright infringement, there would be some penalties and fees to pay, but in terms of incarceration, I'm not pretty sure about that. Okay, so it's not totally equal to stealing per se as a crime. Okay, I saw that. You steal ideas. It basically represents that. The plagiarism as stealing an idea. Yeah. But how do you steal an idea? And how can we protect our ideas not to be stolen? Okay. So moving on, what are how do we plagiarize? Okay, so how do we plagiarize? These are the common types of plagiarism. Okay, so this is what you also included in the Mentimeter earlier. So direct plagiarism is basically copy and paste and all the words. It's a direct quotation from the source without the quotes. Okay, so it comes out as your own words. Okay, so that's direct plagiarism. Simple, lifting out of the text. Self-plagiarism, I don't know if we have experienced this. Um, this is most common in graduate school. You recycle the papers that you submit to your teachers. Yeah, that's actually not allowed. You don't recycle papers unless you revised it from a different angle that is appropriate to your own subject. To be safe on self-plagiarism, you have to inform your professor and ask permission if you can do that. Yeah, that's the safest way to avoid self-plagiarism. Um, I say this especially in graduate school because in graduate school you do your specialization. So when you are in a specialized track, you usually choose an area of study that you already want to really focus on. So the tendency is all your written works would talk about your area of study. So the tendency to self-plagiarize is there. But again, depending on the subject or the courses that you're taking, you have to put your work, your previous work, in that new context or that new frame of mind in approaching or attacking the subject matter. Okay. And it should be substantially new in terms of the additional or new ideas that you put in, not just yung you recycle an old paper and then you just change one paragraph. That I don't think is acceptable, and it's self-plagiarism pa rin. Yeah. But in the college, in the undergraduate, this is also possible, but usually not often. Okay. Mosaic plagiarism. Yan. Kanina, I think there was somebody who said it's a hodgepodge of everything put together. Ano? That's why it's creative and innovative. Yan. But a mosaic plagiarism is also, um, actually, it's a lot more, it comes out as um, more of I would call this a senseless product, kasi it's a hodgepodge of different things, of different sources. For me, as a teacher who has been doing this for quite a while, the tone of the paper would be very different. And when the tone is very different from each other, the first paragraph to the second paragraph to the third paragraph, the third page, it's like you're not talking to me, or several people are talking to me, and that's more, and that's giving me a more bad taste, if you do that, the mosaic plagiarism. um Especially if everything is lifted, you don't even put in your own ideas. Yeah. So that's mosaic plagiarism. Accidental plagiarism, uh, which I really don't believe in, because we all know when we copy, right? We all know when we lifted. But sometimes we just forget to insert the citation. Yan. That's where accidental plagiarism comes in. So it just means that we forgot, or we didn't review our final paper before we submit it. Yan. Which is again, lacks academic rigor. Yan. There is, by the way, an app that helps you with creating your bibliography. While searching for your resources or references, you can bank it there. I used to call it F1000, but I'm not sure now. I think it has changed, but I call it it's called F1000 before, and you can actually just pin it in your browser. And when you do your secondary research, your desktop research, yeah, you can just put everything there, and it actually creates your bibliography. So it's very helpful. So when you finalize your paper, you can just look at that um, app. You open that app and check in everything that you placed in there as part of your paper, and boom, you now have your bibliography, and you know where the in-text citing would be, how to get the surname and the year. It's easier. Yeah. It's easy to search for, an annotation app or a bibliography app, and you can find that very easy. Okay, so that's accidental plagiarism. Yeah, the intention is not there. It's unintended. Again, it's included in the definition of plagiarism, but because of negligence, we commit accidental plagiarism. Yeah. Okay. Sige. Um, by the way, please take note of your questions, and later on we'll have a question and answer portion. Okay, so tagging the 10 types of plagiarism. I just saw this in the internet among the images, and I think this is very helpful for us because you see, I think a lot of things here are happening, and it just seems to be normal. It seems not to be bad. It seems not to be plagiarism because it's being done, every day. Yeah. But clearly the others are clearly plagiarism. So number one is cloning or clone, submitting another's work word for word as one's own. So maybe you got a look at your classmate's paper, and then since you do not have time anymore and you're lazy to think about it, you just you 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 copy, it's not actually copying. You got the whole paper and then just change the name of the paper. Yan. But this one is very dangerous because automatically the teacher will definitely, unless you have different teachers, and if you have different teachers, but if you're going to submit to just one teacher, gosh, I have encountered this, by the way, cloning. So same paper, two names. Okay. So yeah. So huli ka agad. Second is Control C, which is um, Control C is copy, right? Contains significant portions of text from a single source without alterations. So talagang in toto, you lifted and paste. Okay. Find and replace. Okay, so you try to paraphrase so that when the teacher checks, maybe it will not show in the results page. So you change the keywords, you find them and replace with another synonym. But essentially, you're retaining the content of the source. Yeah. So it comes out when the teacher checks um, that you plagiarized or you copied it from somewhere else and just replaced some keywords. And by the way, you have to be very careful with the find and replace because sometimes the synonyms are out of context. Yeah, so you have to make sure that the synonyms that you're getting for the paraphrasing is really contextualized in the use of the sentence. Because diba, some words are the same, are synonymous, but when used in a specific context, when you use it in a sentence, it will sound different. Yeah. I have also an example for that later. Okay. Number 4, remix. Yeah. Diba, we are also familiar with the word remix. Yeah, we always hear this, especially in the field of music. Remix. Okay, and it seems all right, right? Oh. It's paraphrases from multiple sources made to fit together. So it's like the mosaic plagiarism. Yeah. So it's creative and innovative, as someone mentioned earlier. Yeah. But it says here pala that it's also plagiarism, technically. Number 5, recycle. This is like the self-plagiarism case. Borrows generously from the writer's previous work without citation. That you're not saying that this was previously submitted in another class or another subject. Number 6, hybrid combines perfectly cited sources with copied passages without citation. Uh, Even the citation you copy. Yeah. So it's so when the teacher checks the citation, it really doesn't show sometimes because for academic writing, still a lot of citations are book based, and not ebooks, library books, hard copy books, which may not show in the internet. See, so the teacher wouldn't be able to find your reference. Yeah. I also had that experience with that. And then when I was able to find the source of the whole paragraph with the citation, yun nga, even the citation, the in-text citation was also copied. Mash up mixes copied material from multiple sources. Okay, so pretty much similar with remix. It is also plagiarism, by the way, when you put in a reference that comes out with a 404 error. It cannot be located. It's non-existent. It's inaccurate. So it's not only that you cite properly, you acknowledge properly, and you put in the source or where you found it, but you have to check every link that you put in your paper, in your bibliography or reference page, if it's working, if it's still working. Because sometimes, it's changed or it's taken out or taken down. So you will fall into the 404 error if you don't counter check before submission if all the links are working. Okay. And sometimes, the spacing when you cut it because it's on the at end of the paper and all that, you have to be very particular on that. Number 9, aggregator. includes proper citation to sources, but the paper contains almost no original work. Okay, this is what I mentioned earlier. Now, your paper is really, it's not yours. It's a hodgepodge of everything that you got from somewhere else. So you didn't have you didn't even include, you know, a portion from your own thoughts or ideas, your own words. Wala. It's just a copy and paste. It's a mosaic. And number 10, see, we have retweet. Includes proper citation but relies too closely on the text's original wording and or structure. So you can share, but retweeting always has to have like a CTTO. Yeah. Especially if it's photos, if it's images, if it's videos, the CTTO is very important. Okay, when we share um, or retweet materials in any social media or in the online platform. Yan. So retweeting pala is also um, plagiarism if there's no acknowledgement to the source of the tweet. Okay, but a lot of people are doing this, diba? In Twitter. It's just forward or just share and share. Uh, and I don't know if it's the hashtag or the source is enough for the citation, but it says here it's just all the content of the previous owner of the tweet that you're sharing. It, there should be like some short tweets also from you when you reshare it, when you retweet it, yeah, so that it's not plagiarized, quote unquote. Okay, so tagging the 10 types of plagiarism. Okay, next, here I have examples. Okay, sorry for the text heavy slide, but I just like to show you funny, these are funny paraphrasing of copying. Okay, so basically the subject, nature, culture, and spirituality help me understand the cultural and spiritual values and how to have a sustainable life with nature. Yeah, so I enjoy this subject so much because it taught me a lot, especially on how to take care of our environment and biodiversity. I also learned that our biodiversity is experiencing a severe cause of human activity crisis, which is causing a great species loss in a short period of time. Okay. So, medyo ano. This subject also helped me understand what the connections of God, nature, and how the spiritual and social doing of each individual protects our nature, and our faith in God is the connection of each and everything that we do in our everyday life. So this is like a reflection paper, end of the course reflection paper. Below is the copied text. Okay, so the subject, nature, culture, and spirituality help me to comprehend. Okay, so instead of understanding, comprehend the social and profound qualities. Okay, so spiritual values became profound qualities, and how to have a practical existence with nature. So sustainable life now is practical existence. Okay, so instead of enjoyed, I appreciated the subject so much since it trained me a ton. Okay, trained me a lot, so it's a ton now, particularly in the most proficient method to deal with our current circumstance and biodiversity. So, what is proficient method on how to take care of our environment? Okay, see, doesn't sound right. I additionally discovered that our biodiversity is encountering an extreme reason for human movement emergency. Yan, okay, talagang hindi ko na maintindihan. I don't know how to interpret extreme reason for human movement emergency, which is causing an extraordinary animal group misfortune in a brief time frame. So ito na. This is where I laugh. I started to laugh. This subject likewise helped me comprehend what the associations of God, nature, and how the profound and social doing of every individual secures our nature and our confidence in God is the association of each and all that we do in our regular daily existence. So, you know, very easy, diba? So I read, fortunately, I read the first part first. I read the original first, and then I read the one below. So uh, on the first part, I was like shocked, or okay. So this is pretty much like the other one. And then when I started reading the most proficient way to deal with our current circumstance, and encountering extreme reason for human movement emergency, which is causing an extraordinary animal group's misfortune in a brief time frame, I I had a good laugh about this. So this is an example of bad paraphrasing. You see, which in when you by the way, there's also an online app for paraphrasing. Yeah, so you can also search that. So easy paraphrasing app, and then will give you those online apps. But you still have to check again. You still have to check again, because again, you can use the words out of context, and huli pa rin ni teacher. Yeah. Doesn't sound good. Another example is here. The challenges that I encounter during the class is our internet connection, since most of the time the connection is unstable, and sometimes the internet connection of our professors are, you know, it's supposed to be ARE, right? Our professors are also unstable. That is why sometimes I cannot understand what they're saying, because it tends to get choppy on the other end. Yeah. Okay. Pati yung hour na yan na mali, kinopya. The challenges that I experienced during the class is our internet connections. Since more often than not, okay, so most of the time becomes more often than not, the connection is flimsy. Okay, so unstable becomes flimsy. Okay, which I wouldn't use for an internet connection to describe a weak internet connection. And now and then, sometimes becomes now and then, the internet connection of our teachers are additionally, okay, so yung mali doon sa original na our kinopya rin. Unsteady, unstable becomes unsteady. That is the reason some of the time I can't comprehend what they are stating in the light of the fact, that it will in general get uneven on the opposite end. Yeah. See, so choppy can be a word when you cut, right? When you cut. But when you talk about internet and internet connection, it's not about cutting. Well, maybe you get cut off, but it doesn't. It's not clear. It's choppy. It's erratic, the sound. But yeah, it was used as uneven on the opposite end, which doesn't really make sense when you talk about internet connection, right? Okay. And final example. Okay. This course can still be enhanced if there would be more handouts and lectures about the subject. Giving webinars is one of the great ways to understand the subject, and it also gives additional knowledge for the students. Okay, so nice. And the copy is, this course can at present be upgraded if there would be more gifts. Okay, so the handouts became gifts. Okay, so now the teacher will not just give handouts, but the teacher will give gifts. Okay, excuse me. And talks and lectures became talks about the subject. Okay, giving online courses is one of the incredible approaches to comprehend the subject, and it likewise gives extra information for the understudies. Diba? When do you use understudy? It's not in school. You refer it as you can refer it as a student. Maybe it came out for the student synonym understudy, but you don't say understudy when you talk about students in school. Yeah? You use understudy when you have somebody like a mentor coaching somebody who will take the place of that, usually in actors, in theater plays you have understudies. If you are thinking of grooming somebody to replace you, that's an understudy. Your student bale, so that he or she will learn what you're doing. But you don't usually refer that to students in terms of languaging understudies. So there you go again. See, so this is a great example of a bad paraphrasing and a bad case of plagiarism. which automatically will get the student into trouble. And not only, the one that copies it, but also the original owner. Uh, because in the first instance, how did the other student get the copy of her paper? Yeah. So the same reason that we always get. Yeah. Sorry, miss, it was unintentional. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it's just pretty difficult to accept that kind of reasoning that it was unintentional, because the paraphrasing was really intentional. You paraphrased it intentionally, taking out words from the original, replacing it with other words that don't even jive with the sense of the paper, of what you want to say, of what the original paper wants to say. And sadly, this is something that is actually not supposed to be copied, because this is like a reflection paper. Yeah. So there's no technicalities really that you copied from an academic source, or a copyright paper or a published article. But this was a reflection of a classmate, and the student, you know, um, it, because I don't know, this is not thinking anymore. This is more of um, just looking back at your learning experience for the past semester, yeah, and think about how did I don't know if the student wouldn't want to be honest in her own experience, so she just copied the work of. But the time that she spent paraphrasing could have been spent on doing her own reflection, and this is just a one pager. So yeah, so maybe you can think about it if you're pressed with time, and sometimes it will take more time for you to plagiarize. Why just don't you do your own work? Just do your own original ideas, put in there what your thoughts really are. That's I think that's the best way to do it. What you've learned, and because assessment is really a way for the teacher to know how far you've learned. And if you've learned just this much, I think you have to be honest about it. And what's really more important to me is as you ask questions, because you don't know much, or you find it difficult to understand some concepts. There are a lot of concepts. If your learning style is you have to have a tutor or a mentor talking to you, you request that from your teacher. You deserve that. You can demand that, because you are paying your tuition fees. But if you're an independent student, if you're an independent learner, you can do it on your own. You go through the online class, go through the readings, go through the activities on your own. And yeah, and write the things that you understand, the things that makes meaning to you, the things that um, you can relate to the topic. Okay, so those are examples of plagiarism. So basically, this is a very technical issue when you say plagiarism, because this is just citation. To solve this problem, you can just cite where we borrowed the ideas. Huh? Um, it's allowed, it's allowed, unless you just put everything, unless you are just going to copy everything. Um, that would be not allowed, because you didn't put in anything from your end. But if you want to copy a lot of things from sources, you just cite. And you get away with plagiarism. Actually, um, yeah, it's not plagiarism anymore, but uh, yeah, it's basically also copying ideas. You just acknowledge where you got it, the sources. And of course, not just borrowing, share your own ideas as well using your own words. Writing assignments would help us develop our writing proficiency, our skills in written communication. Um, Yeah, I recognize that there are students or learners who are more oral, or auditory. You may be more kinesthetic. You may have other learning styles, and you are not so much of a writer. But writing is one of the basic skills, basic literacy skill. So it doesn't really matter if you're not, highly literary or highly technical writer. Just write in simple language. The simpler, the better. The more important thing is that you also share your own ideas or your own take of the topic, because that's what learning is really all about. Actually, I tell my students, it's really your decision to commit to learning. You know, if you want to make the most of the tuition fee that you pay, the investment of your parents in the school, you have to take advantage of the learning opportunities. And by plagiarizing and copying and cheating and all that borrowing, will not make you learn, will not really develop your own knowledge stock, and how you would analyze and interpret those new information that you're getting from your teachers on the subject. Okay? So, what's next? So, very simple lang, plagiarism is actually easy to get away with
Let's hear it.
by actually not doing it, because it is so easy to cite. Again, you search for that uh, app that you can actually embed in the browser. I can hear a microphone open. And then you can just, when writing, you can just put in all the references there, and you will be given that bibliography or reference page. Yeah. So is everything clear so far? Questions or clarifications before we proceed, or we should put all the questions at the end? Uh, I think at the end na lang, so that I didn't ask pala Dr. Dave earlier that we can have questions in the middle. But I hope everything is clear so far. But I expect questions later. Okay. But is it just about telling everybody your source? So is plagiarism really just about citing, putting in your source? Why do we allow media to protect their sources if this is the case? Why does media have this luxury or privilege that they can say anything, they can talk about anything, and they can actually protect their source? They can actually not put in their source because they want to protect their sources. So, how do we define now when should we share where we borrowed, or when should we not share where we borrowed the information? Yeah. For me, plagiarism, the issue of plagiarism goes beyond the technicalities, of writing, preparing the paper. I think that can easily be done. That can easily be taught to the students. Sometimes, yeah, it's also about lack of skills in writing a, cle- an honest or paper with integrity. But it's more of the norms and mental models that we have on the idea of knowledge sharing, knowledge networking, and how to handle information and ideas. Now that we are online, now that the World Wide Web is so open and so full of information from everywhere, how much data is inputted in it every second, every minute, every day. Yeah. So I move on to the next level of challenging norms and mental models in education. Number one, well, pretty much this is the idea that I just really want to challenge. Ideas are property. So, for example, if you have a cell phone and I take it away from you, I'm stealing your property, your cell phone. So, ideas are considered property, but there's copyright. And then if you copy, you can be penalized for copying, for getting that idea. So how are we going to handle ideas now if ideas are treated as property. You know? uh, Ideas are put in a book, and then everybody has to buy the book. You know? I have nothing against authors. You know? I love books too. I pay for books, you know. But once I get your ideas, once I read your ideas, um, can't I do anything with it? You know, can't I reuse it? Can't I recycle it? Can't I improve on it? You know? So when does that become my property? Or when does you when do you lose the ownership of that idea? You know, when you already shared it with everybody. Yeah. So um, this is like a concept that I'd like everybody to reflect on how we should treat ideas as property. Um, in the context of knowledge sharing and knowledge networking, when in everything, you know, a lot, not everything, a lot of things, you know, is available in the internet, you know. You can start a business by just getting information from the internet, you know. You can actually learn on your own from the internet, you know. There are a lot of free MOOCs online, you know, get a certificate, pass as an assessment, you know, and get a degree from a big university in the US or wherever. Um, a lot of these ideas are free now, you know. So how can we handle now the idea of sharing knowledge, you know, of borrowing or quote unquote stealing knowledge? Um, and I'd like to share with you some examples on how this has been going on for the longest time in the history of man. What is originality? You know, what is originality? Um, I I don't believe kasi that everything that I write is only my own, because I needed somebody else or several people or a lot of people to give me information before I'm able to come up with a paper that I author. You know, I put in my name there as a writer, author, Shiela Dingcong. And that's mine, you know, because I write my name there. But the content of that paper is basically from a lot of people, a lot of books, you know, a lot of experiences of other people, a lot of stories from them, you know, a lot of data. You know, when you do a survey, when you do a research, you get you do surveys, you get data from what, 100 samples or whatnot, and it's not yours. It's data from them, you know, and you're using it for your own original paper. So it kind of puts a lot of questions in me when I think about originality. Originality. And who is the original writer? Who is original? Because we cannot start it from just nothing, from zero. We always have prior knowledge, you know, as thinking individuals, as people with brains, you know. Every interaction that we see by our five senses is stored in our brain, you know, and that is from sources outside of our body, you know. uh, and because you consumed it, you now consider it your own, your exclusive private property, you know. I don't think so. I'm not I'm not agreeable to that, you know. I subscribe to social constructivism. So this is pretty much uh, pedagogy that talks about constructing knowledge within a social context, you know, because you cannot just construct knowledge alone on yourself in a silo, you know. You have to interact with your co-learners, with your classmates. You have to interact with your teacher. You have to interact with the environment. You have to go to field trips. You have to go research and all that for you to be able to create that knowledge. So it's social, you know, learning is social. I have here a video from plagiarism.org. So they have this plagiarism conference pala every year. So this is the 5th International Plagiarism Conference. And this is of course sponsored by the Turnitin app. We all know what the Turnitin app is, right? It's a plagiarism tool to check if the work is plagiarized. So it's a license app. So um, I'm not sure of the price. It's a little bit pricey, but it's very effective. It's more effective, I think, than Grammarly. You can also use Grammarly. I have that also pinned in my Chrome. And there's the originality report of G Classroom, which is not so dependable. You can get away with plagiarism with the originality report of Google. So here, I'd like to show you 5 minutes of this video. Please listen intently because the volume in the first part is a little bit soft, but it grows stronger as we listen.
What can I say about Kirby Ferguson? He made one of my heroes someone I hated because he stole from one of my heroes, which is Woody Guthrie was one of my heroes, and he stole from Bob Dylan. It was disgraceful. In the same way that when I was on the bus in Manchester, I once really heard someone say, you know that Shakespeare bloke, Romeo and Juliet, that's based on West Side Story. How does he get away with it? So many things I could say about Kirby. He's done TED Talks, he's been all around the world. And I'd love the first day when a student comes to me when I say, a lot of this is copied. They'll say, it's a remix. But, the old phrase Isaac Newton said, on the shoulders of giants. Hands up if you heard that phrase. Yeah? Did you know it wasn't Isaac Newton who said it? Yeah? Did you know it was plagiarized? Did you know he said it as a snub to Robert Hooke, who's a mathematician he fell out with? Because Robert Hooke wasn't necessarily a giant of a man. He was a bit short and slender of stature and very ill. Talk about fantastic. Isaac Newton, what a man, eh? Remixed Galileo's empirical work on gravity. Yeah? So not a very good example. But what is a good example is someone who actually takes things lightheartedly and reminds us that we actually do build our work on the work of other people. And there's times when it's okay to say, we don't need you to know who we've built it on. And there's times when we say it's not okay to do that. And to make the debate as to whether that's okay or not, may I introduce Kirby. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm Kirby. I'm from New York. I'm a filmmaker, and I made a 4-part video series called Everything is a Remix. I started it about a year and a half ago. Took about a year and a half to make it, all 4 parts of it. Each part is about 10 minutes long or so. You can watch it online, just Google it. It's easy to find. The first part is about music, second part is about film, third is about technology, innovation, and the fourth is about the law. So rather than tell you the premise, I'll start just by showing you the first minute of the first part to kind of set the stage. Here we go.
Remix. To combine or edit existing materials to produce something new. The term remix originally applied to music. It rose to prominence late last century during the heyday of hip-hop, the first popular music form to incorporate sampling from existing recordings. Early example, the Sugar Hill Gang samples the bass riff from Chic's Good Times in the 1979 hit Rapper's Delight.
Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet.
Since then, that same bass line has been sampled dozens of times.
Good life, no stripe, real nice. And I'm a papa, my son Trey.
Eu sou velho caderninho de telefone, com o nome e o número de monte de mulher.
Skip ahead to the present, and anybody can remix anything music, video, photos, whatever and distribute it globally pretty much instantly. You don't need expensive tools, you don't need a distributor, you don't even need skills. Remixing is a folk art, anybody can do it. Yet these techniques, collecting material, combining it, transforming it, are the same ones used at any level of creation. You could even say that everything is a remix.
All right, so remix, what do I mean with how I'm using this word? It's a musical term, of course, that's its origin. Remixing refers to taking existing songs, chopping them up, transferring the pieces, putting it all back together again, and making a new song. But that new song is still clearly comprised of old songs. So remixing could be thought of as the arrangement and transformation of samples, samples being the little chunks of music that you use to make the new song. But I think remixing is a good metaphor for any kind of creation. So taking existing stuff, copying it, transforming it, combining it, those are just kind of the basics of creativity. Now, this is in opposition to our myths of creativity.
Okay, so I will stop there. Yeah, so according to Mr. Kirby, his theory on remixing is really um, working on the work of others before. You know, we're doing our work based on the work of others before.
What we have right now
Okay,
is
so like these examples. Okay, I have examples. Please prepare your questions because after, okay, so there's like this guy. Okay, so who's this guy? Anybody? Can you please tell me who's this? This is? Nobody knows. I can't open my chat. Ano? Ayan, okay, so somebody says it's not Charles Darwin. Maybe looks like, but it's Edison. Yes, it's Thomas Edison. And what is Edison known for? Edison is known for the bulb or the light bulb, founder of electricity. Okay. Okay, let's see later on if that's true. Next, who's this? Who's this guy who already died? Okay, Steve Jobs. Okay, and Steve Jobs is known for founder of Apple. Okay, Apple. Okay, so the main product of Apple is Mac, and what he's holding is the famous iPod. Okay, next is this, not anymore the youngest billionaire, but for quite a while, he was the youngest billionaire. Who's this? Who is this guy? Come on, you know him. Zuckerberg. Okay, so a lot of us, mabagal lang pala yung aking yeah, but everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, the founder of Facebook. Okay, and last but not the least, I don't know if you're familiar, his face is familiar. Okay, somebody knows the guy. It's Tesla. No, it's not Tesla. When you think of cars, who's that guy? Henry Ford. Okay, very good. Okay, Henry Ford, that's true. And so these are very famous individuals like Thomas Edison, well known for the light bulb, Steve Jobs for Apple, the Mac and the iPad, Zuckerberg for Facebook, and Henry Ford for automobiles. Okay, but did you know that, this is just information from the internet. Meet Louis Latimer, the African-American who enlightened Thomas Edison about the light bulb. So it's not actually an exclusive, or even before them, there were already inventions on the light bulb. Okay. And did you know that Microsoft, this guy on the right, who's that billionaire? That's what's his name? Bill Gates. Yeah. Okay. Bill Gates came out with his first tablet in 2001 or 2000. That's like like 10 years or one decade before the iPad of Steve Jobs. So the history of the tablet, an idea Steve Jobs stole and turned into a game changer from Bill Gates. Okay, so hindi the iPad is actually not an original idea. Facebook. Okay, so it says here that Mark Zuckerberg had to pay 65 million to the twins. The twins. I forget the name always because it's like a foreign sounding name. The twins who founded ConnectQ in Harvard. So it's like an app that the precursor of Facebook. And then they said that Mark Zuckerberg actually hacked into their app and copied the algorithm and the concept and all that, and then moved fast on creating his own social media platform, which is the Facebook, which is now like billions and billions of dollars worth of money. Okay, and so 65 million was a settlement between the Zuckerberg and the twins, the classmates, for um, for not pursuing to file a case because the twins filed the case against Mark Zuckerberg. And it was not actually Henry Ford who invented the automobile. Before Henry Ford, the automobile was already invented. It says that the first car um, was made 11 years earlier by the Germans. Okay, Daimler and Carl Benz. So the picture on the right is Carl Benz, the first gasoline-powered automobile. Okay, so Henry Ford came after. Yeah. But what were the difference? Did they steal or did they borrow or borrowed from the previous guys? See, because when we think of cars, we think of Henry Ford. When we think of the light bulb, we think of Edison. When we think of social media, Facebook and Zuckerberg, and when we think of the tablet iPad, it's Apple. Yeah. But actually, they're not the ones really. Okay, modifications. Yeah, okay. Definitely they did modifications, um not only modifications, maybe a lot of enhancement. Okay, so it depends on your perspective. If you are the copyright type of person, you will say that the ideas were stolen. Why did Zuckerberg pay 65 million to the twins if he didn't steal the idea, if he was like innocent about it, right? But on another sense, um, those guys can be perceived as borrowers of ideas that didn't work, but they were able to make it work. That's why they are the ones credited with the inventions or the creations, the founding of this huge thing. So that's why everything is remixed, according to Mr. Uh, what's his name in the video. Maybe you can check this out in YouTube. It's available. Everything is remixed because we build our work on the work of other people. But the most important thing there is they were able to produce value out of the ideas of the others who aren't able to put it into action. That's the failure there of idea. Going back to idea as property, I think that ideas per se cannot be something that you can just keep to your own, because other people who may not have heard of your idea can also come up with the same idea. If you've heard the first part of the video, the introduction of that bearded guy, he was saying that he overheard somebody talking about Romeo and Juliet, and that the story of Romeo and Juliet was like part of her side story, which like she didn't have any idea how old the Romeo and Juliet story is, and she was thinking, how dare them copy my side story? See? So it's possible that people can think of the same things as you do, So if these are just simple plain ideas, for me it's something that is open and free. It's intangible, it's a concept. What's more important is how you use that idea to make it valuable, to produce a product that is valuable for other people. Now that's when you take ownership of that output of the idea. Okay. So I agree with the idea of copying, combining, and transforming. So the speaker was saying that you copy first with a remix of artistic products. They copy first using that same beat over and over again, then transform and combine. For me, you should combine first, put in your own idea, your own take on it, your own creativity and innovation, then transform it into a new product that is new, or that is useful, more useful, and has value for other people. Yeah, that is what you call really as innovation. So ideas alone are, you know, just in the clouds. They are just there. They are theoretical. They are intangible. They are actually not useful. But you put in your creativity and you make something out of it with action, is equals to an innovation that can even solve problems in society. When it solves problems, it becomes valuable. Now there is where you put the ownership, you know and then you put in the proprietary rights. Facebook, Facebook is a very different business model. It's free to everybody. It's free. Anybody can have an account in Facebook. But why is it a multi-billion-dollar business? Yeah. Because it is a platform that provides value for people. And every time members of Facebook who create accounts for free are able to gain value also from using the platform, that's when they start giving payments to Facebook. you know Advertising, social media advertising is such a huge business now. You can do it on your own, but there is an algorithm that is paid that actually makes your ads come out in your target market, in your buyer's persona within the membership of Facebook. Since there are a lot of people now in Facebook, I think it's over 1 billion people now in Facebook. That's a huge market for any idea, for any product or services, for any whatnot, you know, fundraising, donations, and all that. That when you want to to make it as a more focused marketing campaign, you can do that, and then you now pay Facebook for that. See, so that's how Facebook really earns its huge money. Yeah. And a lot of people invests on it because of how it has attracted the crowd to the platform, because again it's free. That's a very good business model talaga for e-commerce. And then when you capture the market, now you can bombard them with all these ideas to buy this, to subscribe to this, to do this and do that, etc. See? Yeah. So ideas have to be um, combined with creativity plus action in order to come out as an innovation, a new thing. It's the same, but it's not the same. It's the same, but it's better, improvement. It's an enhancement. It's now useful. It is now value, and it is now solving people's problems. Okay. So innovation equals value. Edison's incandescent light bulb is the first commercialized lighting system um, in households, in everywhere, in all places, in all infrastructures, buildings, etc. Because he was able to actually discover the filament inside the bulb that can that has a life longer than the previous ones. Okay, so that's really the improvement, the revolutionary thing that Edison uh, put into the light bulb. And Edison is really an inventor. He has like thousands of patents under his name. So, yeah, and he is a person that doesn't, that accepts failure. I love quoting Edison because he has a lot of things to say in terms of how he succeeded in his ideas, in his inventions. He would always say that he has failed 10,000 times, and he was almost going to give up when that was the last stage before his success. Yeah. And so that's also an idea for us, that when we are at the bridge, at the verge of giving up, always think that after this stage is actually success, or actually the transformation, or actually the time that opportunity is coming into us. Yeah. So that keeps us going, and that helps us not give up. Jobs iPad, very successful. That's the touch screen. uh yeah, it's very revolutionary too. It changes the technological landscape of mobile gadgets. Zuckerberg's Facebook, of course, we all know that we are all hooked into Facebook. And of course, Ford's T model. Yeah. uh it started the mass production of automobile in the United States. So everybody, he was able to bring down the affordability of cars. So people, middle class and even those below middle class, were able to afford automobiles for themselves. Um, and not only that, not only the product itself, but Ford was able to scientifically present a managerial process of manufacturing. The scientific management of Ford, of course, taking off from Taylor in the factory setup, yeah, the specialization of work, the efficiency and all that. See, so they put value into the ideas that they were able to encounter and produced a much more valuable product in the end. So really, there's no shame in copying. Uh, okay, so next slide would be uh, the matter of the democratization of knowledge. As a teacher, I do not see myself as superior in terms of access to information, you know, because I do recognize that the younger generation actually have more. They have they are more they have more skills and competence in the internet, where information is all over. Um, but I see myself really as a mentor, as a teacher, as a guide on how students can consume this information, how to treat this information, providing the students with the critical mind, and the reflective mind of how to process all the information that they're getting from the internet. Um, but in terms of, forcing what I know from what they know, sometimes it's not anymore um, the productive thing to do in a learning environment, because teachers now can really be debated on. Our capacity of knowledge. We People can debate on that. What the students cannot debate on is the wisdom that we have generated from our years of experience. Yeah. Um, because we're older, maybe, and because we've experienced a lot more of life. So from thence, we were able to generate wisdoms that are not readily available in the internet or online. Yeah, we do get a lot of those words of wisdom, those quotes, those stories, anecdotes there, but it's different from when it comes from a teacher, because my experience, my wisdom comes from my own context and experience, which is pretty much the same context with my when I in terms of environment, in terms of, we're Filipino, we live in the Philippines, we live here in Metro Manila, you there in Dumaguete. So it's nearer to the reality of our students. Yeah. So the wisdom of experience is something that we can share to our students, but in terms of, available knowledge that's there in the internet, we can now be debated on by our students. They can actually say that, according to this and that, and that really it's empowering for them, because they have access to that kind of an information, knowledge, data, and everything that they may quickly get more than us, more than the older ones. Yeah. So the democratization of knowledge of the internet and online learning really expands the empowerment of our students, to give them more independence, more uh, they get a hold of their learning uh, stronger by themselves. So it is important that we develop this level of commitment from our students in learning, not just because they have to go through it, because they have to graduate, because their parents have to send them to school. It's part of their responsibility. If you look at the uh, well, I'm not sure. I only know of Zuckerberg, who was able to finish Harvard. Uh, but his degree, his inability to get a degree was not determinant in his fortunes now. Um, yes, he's intelligent. He's from Harvard, but uh, his knack of creating something um, that people will need in the future, that will cater to the next generation, is gave him the power to create this Facebook phenomenon. So I think that's also something that we should acknowledge as teachers in the academe. But talking to the students now, um, I think you should take advantage of this opportunity at this stage in our life. The world, society we're in. Um, we are so much at risk. The world is such a vulnerable, such an uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world now. That's a VUCA world, because we can be disrupted by any hazard, anything, may it be environment, may it be health, may it be technology. The disruption that technology is bringing to us is also, very, uh, it dislocates us, it makes us imbalanced sometimes. And there may be a lot more disruptions coming in the next years. So we become resilient to disruptions. And I think the capacity of our learners to be flexible and to use knowledge to advantage, learn as much as you can, create as much as you can, think about new ways as much as you can, stay away or stay out from mental models that tells you that you should do this and that. You know, later I will, I will also elevate the discussion into questioning or challenging more norms, and how we can do that. Yeah. Because we cannot rely anymore on, maybe my generation and even the older ones, to help us, to guide us into the future. It is actually your generation that will define the future. And we really do not know how to do that. But, just guide you on on maybe coming up with your own decisions, on developing your critical mind, and pushing you to believe in yourself. Um, and it will be you who's going to do it, not us. So it's funny because I usually tell my students not to listen to me. I tell them in a maybe in an ironic context, but I'm also serious about it. That I may have the tendency to lecture. So all the content that I've learned in the past from textbooks, the theoretical ones and all that. But um, there is that proviso that at the end of the day, don't listen to me. Because the more you listen to me, the more you will not learn. Yeah. The highest percentage of learning comes from learning by doing, by actually testing it out, by experiencing it. If you just listen to your teacher, you just only learn like 5-10% of the time. See? So that's why I tell my students not to listen to me, because the more they listen to me, they will not learn. So I try to not talk too much. Okay. So in the era of the internet, we have Mr. Google. So it's easy. There are AIs now that you just call out. I always hear my son say, "Hey Google," and there's Alexa, there's Siri, and there's Bixby of Samsung. A lot of them now are coming out, AIs, and um, these are our assistants. They're what they call them, digital assistants that provides us with answers. They will not call, "Hey teacher." They will rather call Google, Alexa, Siri. Yeah. It's the era of the open educational resources. We share. I always say that once we share, the more we learn. Because if we do not share, how would we learn? Because we just keep it to ourselves. So if everybody keep their thoughts to themselves, nobody's going to learn from each other. There is the Creative Commons movement. So instead of copyright, there's copyleft. It's free, but you just have to cite and acknowledge. You have to make sure that you acknowledge the source or where you're getting it from. But it's really for free use and with non-commercial derivatives. You're not making money out of it. Yeah. Because they were shared to you, you should also share it freely. Yeah. So and I think that's that's really the sense of the internet. The technology sharing. And that's how we're going to help each other, if we share with each other. If we don't share, we're not going to survive the disruptions. And of course, knowledge networking. Yeah. Uh, yes, knowledge networking is really creating the connections, because of the internet. Again, the world is getting small. Online communities are a lot. We can connect, we can communicate, we can talk, and there we now create a connection. Okay. And then, do I still have some time? It's 3:47. Okay, maybe I have okay, yeah, my breakout session pa pala. Yes, I'm almost done. So some words of wisdom. This is when I started training teachers, I first taught our teachers in Miram College, and one of them was Jay Francisco. Actually, she's one of the older ones, and actually she passed away already. But in the final exams, I gave a set of questions, and then because she's she's like a lagger, she does a lot of work, she flies out. So instead of answering my questions, she gave me a reflection paper, and I gave her a very high grade for that. And this is very as a strong message from her, which I always share with everybody. She said in her paper that equalizing power, this was in 2012, by the way, equalizing power in education is one way that I see the internet radicalizing our times. And when power relations are transformed, there will also be new ways of learning, one that generates diversities, contestations, and new forms of intersubjective humanity. We begin from standpoints, viewpoints, and end hopefully with more wisdom in the convergences and divergences of our multiple ideas and our sciences. Who knows, we might even end up with a new civilization. Okay, so early in 2012, Gigi already had these things in her mind that uh, di ba, innovation and creativity, it's all about convergence and divergences. So it's really important for us to, free our minds from the usual, the traditional, the acceptable, the okay, next, last. So plagiarism is not simply an academic issue. It resonates with the outside world. We should connect it to what's happening in the world. So everybody's, copying and improving. So how do we handle plagiarism in the academic sense? It also talks about values and ethics. So values. So do you think is it right to privatize ideas, or do you think it's stealing? Going back to your own meaning of plagiarism, it's bad, it's crime, it's stealing, it's all that. That's how you perceive kasi idea and respect, acknowledgement, and ethics, of course. Intellectual honesty, uh, getting another work as your own. Yeah. Creativity and problem solving, decision making, the capacity to decide if you're going to do something bad to get a better result. Yeah, think about that. Yeah, if that does not resonate with what's happening in Philippine society now. So I strongly suggest that we develop a strong ethical culture in the academe. Instead of do this or you'll be punished, do this because this is the right thing to do. Okay. And that's, I think, what is more important for us to tell our students. We should not give them threats. We should not make them feel afraid of doing it, but instead show them that this is the right way to do because this is the right thing to do. Okay. So I'd like to leave you with these words. Work hard. Life is difficult. You have to accept this. You have to keep this in mind. Then it will become easy. Working smart is how to be effective in today's world, but hard work always pays off. The path to success is never easy. Put rigor in learning. Please cite. Okay. And that's really how to get away with plagiarism. Don't stop asking why. Don't let the adults kill your curiosity. Always challenge mental models and norms. Know your why. Create value. Copy, combine, and transform. Ideas are worthless without innovation. Put them into action, create value for people, and solve problems. Okay, so with that, I think we have questions na tayo or breakout rooms.
Thank you for sharing some tips, ideas, and formulas for us on not to be plagiarized, Dean Sheila. Indeed, it was very helpful to students, and everything in the presentation was very instructional. So at this moment, we will have our question and answer um, time. If you have question, please feel free to type your question in the chat box or in the Q&A icon. And if you're viewing in the Facebook Live, you may actually type in your question in the comment section in Facebook.
Okay, questions. Come on.
Again, you may actually type your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A icon in the Zoom. And if you're watching in Facebook Live, you may type your question in the comment section. Here we have question from our participant, from Miguel Gomez. What happened if you call someone that he plagiarized and then he or she decided to sue it or to sue you?
Okay. Someone call if I call someone that he plagiarized and then he or she decided to sue me, Uh, what happens? What do you mean? Uh, so uh, the case will be libel against me because I called him a plagiarist. Ganun ba yon? Um, in the context of a teacher-student kasi, it's not just calling the person a plagiarist, but I have to show the evidence of plagiarism. So it's not as simple as just saying it, but there has to be proof. And it's very easy because the student submits a written work or any output, and then I have a copy of it, and of course I have a copy of the original source. So I, I think that's very far fetched that I can be sued for libel because I have proof or evidence. Within the academic context, I have as teacher, I have the authority to check on that because policies of plagiarism in schools are very strict. The academe sees it as a serious offense.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mom Sheila. So we also have here a question from the Facebook Live. What are the penalties when we plagiarize an original content?
What are the penalties? I think um, penalties would vary from schools. There are schools that would have like several pages, long pages on policies on plagiarism, but there are also schools that have just just one page of policy on plagiarism, and it can be handled on a case to case basis. um, but on a standard, when you talk of standards, um, plagiarism would automatically render an F grade for the specific course. And that would actually have a dent on the record of the student. And some schools really would not allow students to get awards if you have a record of plagiarism. Yeah. But as I mentioned, it varies. Some may not automatically grant an F on a plagiarized work, and some, like for me, I give second chances. Okay.
Okay, so thanks again, Mom. We have here another question from Karina in the chat box. For example, in a paragraph, there are three particular words that fulfills the idea of the paragraph, and you want to make your own idea of the paragraph. You use your own words, but you somehow copy the three particular words from the original paragraph. Can that still be an act of plagiarism?
Actually, even if you've paraphrased one particular paragraph, you still have to cite. Okay, so it's not just using words, exact words, but it's the idea, the concept. Even if you use it in your own words, that's paraphrasing. You still have to cite. Okay, it's a different thing when you combine your idea with that idea. Okay, so you come out with a different take on the original idea. Okay, so you get me on that. It's not just kasi about words. It can be direct plagiarism in words, or it can be um, paraphrasing. Yeah. Still has to be cited.
Okay, so I think that was being discussed well by Mom Sheila. So at this moment, we will have a we will create three breakout rooms. So each room has a facilitator. So the following facilitators are on screen. We have um, Assistant Professor Alfie Arcelo, Oriel Liza Maipa, and Fredly Bukog. So all of these facilitators are actually from Silliman Online University Learning. So if there is a prompt that will pop up in your screen, kindly click join now. This is good for the participants. Okay. So thank you, facilitators, Sir Fred, Ma'am Alfie, and Ma'am Lisa for um, moderating or facilitating our breakout classroom. So now we are back to our plenary. Thank you for participating our sessions to the participants. But before we move on to our closing ceremonies, may I ask one of our facilitator in our breakout room to give a short summary. So let's hear from Assistant Professor Alfie Arcelo to give out some short summary.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is I'll just have make this short and sweet, but more or less I asked for the session. I just asked them about how they found the topic. It was more like kumusta ang topic, and most of them really answered that through chat that it was something that's enlightening because they have learned a lot about. It surprised them though that they have learned about a lot of new things about plagiarism. And another thing is through the whole session, what really gave value, what I really got as valuable was the fact that concept itself should have there should be action and also some sort of contribution in the part of someone so that it could become an innovation, no? So and another thing is that um, knowledge or a concept is just, well, a kept concept. If it cannot be shared, it could not become like full blown knowledge or full knowledge if it cannot be shared. And thus, no, the more you share, as what Mom Sheila has said earlier, the more you share that concept, no, the more learning takes place also. So that is also our moral, it's our way of really also flourishing, not just not flourishing the knowledge development, not through plagiarism, but more of giving more or sharing more, not through plagiarism. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for sharing your short summary on the participants, Ma'am Alfie. Thank you. So at this moment, we'll have our closing ceremony. Okay, so we have here on screen our certificate of recognition. Allow me to read the citation. Silliman University and Dr. Mariana Lau Free Computer Education Program presents this certificate of recognition to Sheila Lo Dingcong for sharing her valuable knowledge as a guest speaker during the fourth series of Dr. Mariana Lau webinar series with the topic How to Get Away with Plagiarism, which was held on the 5th of December via Zoom online, signed our very own project leader, Dr. Dave E. Marshall. Okay, we have here our special announcement. For next week, we have another set of topic, which is lessons learned, online and distance education, which will be delivered by our very own Melody Angelic Rivera, Faculty of Information System Department of the College of Computer Studies here in Silliman University. And we also have here Dr. Mariano Lau Educational and Emergency Support Fund, and the guidelines and requirement on qualification um, link will be available below. Okay, we also have here call for submission, Silliman University, Dr. Mariano C. Lau, Research and Capstone Development Grant. So beside this one is the link for you to avail. And of course, this webinar wouldn't be complete if we have this survey. So please make sure to fill up the necessary information on the post webinar survey, which will be seen here. The link is available on screen. So it will be also available in the chat box. And yes, this is the certificate of participation for those attendees who have joined this webinar session this afternoon. Okay, so with that, thank you for joining our webinar series this afternoon. Thank you to our speaker, to Sir Dave, and to Silliman University, and to Dr. Mariano Lau. Again, this has been your host, moderator, John Synth Lado Palama, saying thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.